Hello, welcome to my presentation. My name is Tom Godfrey. I'm a teacher trainer and CEO of ITI Istanbul. And my topic today is the art of teaching, embodied approaches for teacher development. And I'll start by explaining the title. What does embodied approaches mean? Well, my philosophy is that the teacher's presence, including their physical embodied presence, as well as the learner's presence, and the interaction between them is the key to learning. So if there's engagement, then learning is possible. So embodied presence mean the participants, teachers and learners, are engaged physically and also mentally, socially, and emotionally. And this is what I mean by embodied, being present in mind, body, and spirit. Why do I believe teaching demands skills that are more pertinent to artists than scientists? Well, I have four reasons. Firstly, teaching is based on judgments formed during action. In other words, we have to, in order to learn how to teach, we have to practice teaching. So we develop our skills through practice. It's not really possible to learn how to teach effectively by reading a book or listening to a teacher trainer. Secondly, it is influenced by contingencies that are in real time and they're unpredictable. In other words, teaching is improvised. We have to make decisions on the spot in real time. Thirdly, teaching involves physical and emotional engagement. In other words, it's an embodied activity. And finally, achievements are created in the process. In other words, learning is a dynamic process. So the learning happens in the classroom, in the learners' heads. So it's emergence, the results emerge from the process. However, in teacher education, very often the opposite is true. So teacher training focuses on procedural elements of teaching, how to plan lessons, identify aims. And the implication is often that there is a methodology that can be followed in a standardized manner, which is not, I believe, the case. So I believe the main challenges for teachers are engaging the learners physically, mentally, socially, and emotionally, and having a positive presence and developing a safe and efficient learning environment. Whereas on a traditional training course, the emphasis often tends to be more on the content, the methods, the procedures, how to plan a lesson, how to use resources, how to set up activities, how to give feedback, how to analyze the language, how to correct errors, etc. But these are not often the main challenges that teachers actually face. However, my conviction was shaken during the pandemic when all teaching went online and this was effectively bodiless, or more accurately, bodiless from the neck down. So teachers and learners online are no longer physically present. And this means a need to redefine what we mean by presence, as presence is mediated through the technology. And an online presence is different from a face-to-face presence. So these questions got me thinking about teaching and learning in general. And are teachers primarily transmitters of knowledge, or is their role to help learners learn? Is learning knowing about something you didn't know before, or is it more about application and change in behavior? Obviously, the answers to these questions is going to determine what kind of teacher you are. Um, and in my observations of teachers, I've noticed that they fall on a cline. And at one end of the scale, we have teachers who are transmitters of information, and I call this model the competence model. And here, the lessons are built on aims, materials, procedure, and it's quite static. Learning involves reception of content. Lessons tend to be quite teacher-centered. Often there's a focus on grammar and accuracy. And lessons are routine and scripted. Whereas at the other end of the scale, there are teachers who perceive their role as facilitators of discovery. And I call this the performance model. And lessons tend to be more built on authentic context and often personalized, using the learner's experience or teacher's experience. Learning involves using the language. Lessons are more learner-centered. Lessons focus on communication and language use. And lessons are improvised and more open-ended. They depend on learner-generated input. So to conclude this introduction, teachers are made up of three key elements. Their head, which contains the theories and the knowledge. So is it what they know that makes a great teacher? And then also their bodies, their practice. So is it what teachers do that makes them great teachers? And teachers also have hearts and personalities. So is it this element that makes a great teacher? Obviously, all of these elements are combined, embodied. So essentially, everything boils down to the concept of our identity. Our sense of self-identity encapsulates the kind of teacher, indeed the kind of person we are. And our sense of identity determines our behavior, our beliefs, attitudes, emotions. So in terms of teacher development, we need to interrogate our sense of identity if we want to develop as teachers. But how can we do this? Well, we need to start asking questions such as, why are we here? And this is not a philosophical question, why do humans exist on the planet? It means, why are you here now? How has your life journey brought you to this present moment? And we need to ask questions such as, why are you a teacher? What kind of teacher are you? And it's only by asking these questions can we raise awareness of our sense of identity. So how can we raise awareness of our sense of identity? I believe there are two ways. And the first way, one way, is to reflect on our past and the signs and influences that led us down this path. Who had an early impact on your life when you were a child? What do you remember about them? How do you feel? This was my father. He was a quiet, introverted man. He was not particularly comfortable in social situations. And this was in stark contrast to my mother, who was Irish and a talker. And she would talk constantly to fill the silence. And it did not seem to be important what she said. I mean, sometimes I'm not sure she even really knew what she was saying, to be honest. But I vividly remember as a young boy sitting in our living room, surrounded by adults chatting when we had guests. And then my mother would say, I have to go to the kitchen to check on the tea or something. And as soon as she left the room, the talking would stop and there would be an embarrassed silence until she returned. And then all the loud chatting would start again. However, my father was a storyteller. He knew how to tell a story. And when he started telling a story, everyone listened. Everyone was absorbed. And I think watching my father tell a story in some way led me to teaching. So he taught me that everyone had their moment in the spotlight. Everyone had their moment to shine. You just need to find your context. You need to find your situation. So I think that was an influence from my early childhood. We're also influenced by other people. Our sense of identity is built through relationships with other people. And there are always other people who influence our ideas and thoughts and beliefs. And one such person is somebody from my early teaching career, and his name was Esat Hoja. And Esat worked in the Naval Academy and was strong on discipline. And he used to say, Tom, I don't care whether my learners like me or not. I just want them to behave in class and focus on learning and make progress. And I said, well, good luck with that, Esat, because I don't believe we learn from people that we don't like. Certainly this was true in my experience. I did not like any of my teachers at school when I was from age 9 to 16. And I don't think I learnt very much from any of them. However, at the end of the semester, when I spoke to Esat, he proved me wrong. Because his learners did make great progress. And I realized that although he didn't care whether his learners liked him or not, he actually did care about them. He cared about their learning. And these feelings were transferred to the learners, who respected his commitment to their learning and responded to him in a positive way. And this taught me that we need to consider how we want our learners to feel in the classroom. And what kind of role model are we presenting? And how can we make this happen? And I still believe we learn from people we like. But we like them in different ways. So who from your past has had a key impact on who you are today? Can you reflect on your life journey and identify some of the relationships that have influenced your self-identity? The second way we can raise awareness of our sense of identity is by reflecting on our actions. So how do we behave in certain situations? And in my teacher development courses and workshops, we get participants to perform a variety of games and activities, and then reflect on how they behaved and why they behaved in that way. And this is done in order to raise awareness of their identity and their sense of identity, of who they are. This is an activity that I describe as a transformation activity. And when I say this to teachers, they assume that it's a grammar transformation activity. And they say things like, oh, we're transforming active sentence to passive, or direct speech to reported speech. And I say, no, we're transforming ourselves. We're transforming ourselves into an animal. It's a bird with large eyes, and it comes out at night, and it can turn its head right round, and it's wise. And they say, okay, an owl. And this is an activity I first saw in a book by Alan Maley, and the book was on training your voice. So in the book, it was a vocal activity. However, in my workshops, I use it as a metaphor for reflecting on teacher creativity and imagination. So the way it works is I tell teachers that there's an element of danger, and that we're going to transform into an owl, and they have to do exactly what I do, because generally transforming into an owl is relatively straightforward, but transforming back again into a human being is not so easy. So they have to take their right hand and put it on their left shoulder, breathe in, and then when they bring their eyes forward again, they have to, they breathe in, look over their left shoulder, and when they bring their eyes back to the front again, they have to make the sound of an owl. Ooh. And I'm just going to show you a demonstration of this, a colleague doing this activity.
How is it that as adults, what is so natural for us as kids suddenly becomes uncomfortable and weird and strange, and we don't want to do it?
The kids are natural.
So what happens to us?
We all became the same person. Like we become conditioned by society, rules, people, opinions.
That's true, but why? Who tells us not to?
School,
Society, school,
family,
yes.
job descriptions.
Yes. What drama does is that it removes that barrier, it takes the block away, and lets that natural child to develop and to act.
So the reflection is the interesting part of this activity, reflecting on how children use their imagination creatively in a very natural way, so they can transform from a soldier to a train driver to a dog without any problem, or from a princess to a witch to a frog. And this comes very easily for children when they're playing. They use their creative imagination. But when we ask teachers how did they feel about doing this particular activity, very often they feel uncomfortable and uneasy. And then we can say, okay, why do you think this is the case? Why something that for children is so natural for you has become more self-conscious? And this gets them to reflect on their sense of self. So, what does facilitating involve? Well, basically, I believe that to develop facilitation skills, we need to look at three elements: raising awareness of ourself, so developing our ability to listen actively, to have eye contact, to show interest. Also developing our awareness of others, so interacting with others, asking effective questions, giving feedback. and also raising awareness of our identity, our sense of self, knowing ourselves in terms of our beliefs and attitudes. So how can we develop these skills? Well, there are numerous activities that I use, and I'll describe a sort of brief selection of some of them. So this is a physical activity to raise awareness of our body and how it moves. It's also a low focus way of building trust and rapport with the group.
Your face and my hand should have the same orientation. That means your hair should be here, aligned with this, with my fingers. And your chin, you don't move. Your chin is always in the same alignment with the base of my hand. So if I do this, you need to do whatever necessary to maintain your face where it is.
You have it. Well done. Well done.
Now wake up. Okay? Now do the same in hair.
So the reflection stage after the activity is important. You can ask questions like, did you prefer to be the hypnotist or the person being hypnotized? Why? And then extend this to other people in your life who you are following. Are there people who are following you? Are you a good role model for your learners? So this activity acts as a vehicle for raising awareness of our embodied presence, but also a stimulant for interrogating our sense of identity and why we behave in the way that we do. Another activity is a kind of kinesthetic activity. It's called the wink game. Essentially, this is a concentration game that establishes a high degree of eye contact between the group, and it enhances group awareness. Basically, everyone stands or sits in a circle with one participant in the middle, and then the participants in the circle choose someone that they wink at them, and the wink is a signal to change places. And they need to change places quickly so the person in the middle doesn't take their place.
I should find a thing.
Yes, mine.
So reflection on this activity can include questions such as, how did you feel when you were in the middle? who was in the middle most often? Why? Because often that's the extrovert of the group. Who did you wink at? And these questions get teachers to reflect on how they behaved in the activity. This basic format can be extended. So we can use it as a way of getting learners to talk about their own experiences. I mean, the aim in most teacher development programs is to get teachers talking about their experiences. There needs to be some kind of self-disclosure. There needs to be some kind of investment in the process. So everyone who changed places, the participants stand in a circle again, and the person in the middle makes a sentence. So everyone who likes tea, what have you, change places. And it could be a topic. So, for example, if we're talking about teachers' issues, problems, it could be something like everyone who has disruptive students in their class change places. And this way, people can share their experiences, and it demonstrates that other people have similar problems. A variation on this is step forward if you have.
Step forward if you have or ever had toxic colleagues. In other words, people who gave a negative energy.
Have ever had a part.
And once people have responded, then it's an opportunity for them to talk about their experiences. Map on the floor. Again, this is an activity to get workshop participants self-disclosing personal information. It helps build rapport and trust and a group dynamic. Basically, the facilitator asks participants to imagine there's a map on the floor. Could be a world map and participants stand where they're born or where they live, or a map of the city and they stand in their favourite place. And then participants talk to the people near them and share their experiences. And this can be extended to Take Me on a Journey, where the participants take their partner on a journey. And here is
Sigana, welcome to Kuwait. This is where I was born. Let me take you around my town. This town is called Ahmadi. This is my house, 39 First Street North. Do you want to go into my house?
Of course.
Okay, so let's go through the garden. There's a small garden. And just take them on a tour of your place. The guest should be extremely interested. Ask lots of questions. Wow, who's that? Where did you... So don't be a silent, okay.
What
Ask
number,
lots of
what
questions.
number was your street?
this next activity is Fox and the Hound or Cat and Mouse. And basically it's an activity, a tag activity. The aim is to raise energy levels, to foster group communication, coherence, but more importantly is to stimulate reflection after the activity. And this is how it works.
Face each other and hold each other's like that, okay, with a bit of space between you. Okay. So this is a hole in the ground. Okay. Sharon, you're going to be the hound.
A hound.
A hound. A dog.
Oh, okay.
And Cheryl, you're going to be the fox. Okay. So the hound is going to chase the fox, and the fox can get safe by diving into a hole. When they're in the hole, that releases, depending on how they enter the hole, that releases, they chuck somebody out of the hole, and then you have to run because you're the fox, okay? So it's similar to the game we did last time, but...
Which one is chucked out? The back?
Oh, that's really
it depends. If
I
you
catch
chuck
the
out the back or
fox,
chuck...
do they become a hound?
Yes, and then if you tag the fox, you change roles. Okay, go.
It'd be easier to go out with it.
Oh, that's me.
I thought it was me.
Didn't go inside yet. You're out.
Well, Sharon.
Wait. Start coming up. Show me my Never mind.
Yeah, I'm not going.
This isn't very nice though. Sorry, Robin.
I was sorry.
So in the reflection stage, we can ask questions like, did you prefer chasing or being chased? Why? And then broaden the topic. So where do you go in your life? Where do you go to hide from danger? What are you chasing in your life? What are you running from? So the game, the activity, is a vehicle to get participants to consider some of these issues. It's kind of like a metaphor, and it gets them to think about how do they behave, and how do they behave as teachers. So to sum up, I contend that teacher education should aim at discovering the source of creative energy in the teacher. And this means focusing on their identity and their sense of self, and supporting teachers to attain some kind of genuineness of personal expression by developing performative skills. And by performative skills, I mean essentially developing their awareness of themselves, developing the sense of awareness of others, and awareness of their setting and their context. So all the activities that I use in teacher development workshops have these kind of aims. So to raise energy levels, to raise awareness of our senses, to raise awareness of others, to build group rapport. Also, I think becoming aware of who you are and where you're going is key to professional development. So teachers using this performative pedagogy experience, if you like, learn how much they have in common. They become more comfortable disclosing their issues, struggles to themselves and others. And they come to experience a higher level of self-efficacy. And they do this also through meta-performative skills. Basically, by meta-performative, I mean reflecting on their identity. So skills which gets them to think about the influence of experiences, past experiences in their life, to raise awareness of their self-journey and identity. So in the summer, in July, I'm doing face-to-face workshops in which we explore the use of facilitation skills in teaching, training, and also experiment with drama activities and techniques that teachers can transfer to their classrooms. And we explore the experiences of being a language teacher in order to sort of present our findings in a final forum. If you want to read more about facilitation skills and the use of drama in English language teaching, there are lots of articles and lesson plans and videos on my blog, also on the YouTube channel. And I recommend taking the facilitation skills masterclass workshop weekends in the summer, because being face-to-face, they kind of have more meaning. But don't rely on my recommendation. Here is a testimonial from one of the participants who attended the workshop last year. The theme will be the challenges, the difficulties, the obstacles of being a language teacher.
What solution might be out there for action to choose?
You know, the pressure was from the manager, right?
Right. Actually, it was a totally new experience for me because I could be somehow self-reflecting myself. I had the opportunity to see all the ups and downs that I've been experiencing through all the years that I've been teaching, and that I could never see before.
Like your scenario, where we have the internal thoughts, that is also possible.
In this workshop, I could see myself there. I could have that self-reflection, and I could see exactly the problems that I've been facing with, and the challenges, those maybe sometimes personal conflicts that I had to challenge during all those years. And definitely I learned a lot, because it was somehow like a self-discovery journey for me. And I highly appreciate Tom to give me such opportunity to be in this context, because it was the first experience, and before that I had no ideas exactly how it would go, but it was brilliant.